It was a cold morning in the south of England, the fog still clinging like a shroud to the bare trees lining the driveway of an old manor house. A silver car, devoid of a license plate, had been parked there all night. No one had entered or exited. It sat in silent testament to an unknown purpose until an anonymous phone call, a deep male voice delivering just 7 words, "You should check that car," brought the police to the scene. Inside, there was no body, no blood, no immediate signs of a struggle. But tucked behind the driver's seat was something far more potent, an old black notebook filled with coded notes and a map of the Netherlands, yellowed and worn with age. To an ordinary person, they were harmless trinkets. To law enforcement, they were a blaring siren. In the annals of British criminal history, only one name was associated with such items, a name that had haunted European intelligence for decades, a man who was once Interpol's Target 1. The items posed a chilling question. Had Curtis "Cocky" Warren returned, or had he never truly left? What time is it where you are, and where are you watching us from? I look forward to your responses in the comments. And, of course, please subscribe to the channel. Curtis Francis Warren was born in the spring of 1963 in Toxteth, Liverpool. In the 72nd and 82nd, Toxteth was a crucible of neglect and social decay, a grim, working-class district of crumbling red brick terraces and rubbish-strewn alleyways. Deindustrialization had ripped the soul out of the city's docks, leaving behind mass unemployment and a festering sense of hopelessness. His father, Curtis Aloysius Warren, was a Norwegian merchant navy seaman, a transient figure often absent on long voyages, while his mother worked tirelessly in low-wage jobs to feed her children. In this environment, crime wasn't a moral failing. It was a career path, woven into the fabric of daily life, like the damp that crept into the houses. Warren's first brush with the law came at age 12 for stealing a car, and he soon graduated to more serious offenses like armed robbery, earning his first custodial sentence at 18. Unlike his peers, who were often loud, flashy, and fueled by drink and drugs, Warren was different. He didn't smoke, didn't drink, and abstained from the narcotics he would one day build an empire upon. He was a quiet observer, a listener, a mind that cataloged every weakness and opportunity with cold, dispassionate logic. After a stint as a bouncer in Liverpool's gritty nightclubs, he understood a fundamental truth. Power came from controlling the doors. It meant controlling the flow of money, information, and, most importantly, drugs. He didn't want to be a cog in the criminal machine, he wanted to own it. In the early 1992, the British drug trade was a fragmented and inefficient enterprise, with local gangs relying on a long chain of European middlemen. Warren saw this for what it was, a vulnerability. In a move of staggering audacity, he cut them all out. Along with an associate, he flew directly to Venezuela to negotiate face-to-face with the architects of the global cocaine trade, the notorious Cali cartel. He proposed a smuggling method of pure genius. Cocaine would be packed into small, custom-made steel boxes, which were then welded inside larger lead ingots. The lead was so dense it was designed to be impenetrable to the primitive X-rays used by customs at the time. When the first trial shipment arrived in the UK, HM Customs and Excise were suspicious but found nothing when they drilled into one of the lead ingots. They let it pass. It was only after a tip-off from Dutch police, who had intelligence on the method, that they realized their error. By then, Warren and the 1.5-ton haul had vanished. A subsequent shipment of 907 kilograms was intercepted, and Warren was arrested. The case against him, however, famously collapsed in 1993 when his associate was revealed to be a police informant, rendering the evidence inadmissible. Warren, ever audacious, reportedly walked out of the courtroom, sought out the customs officers who had built the case against him, and sneered, "I'm off to spend my pound 87 meter from the first shipment, and you can't touch me." His combination of raw intelligence, meticulous planning, and sheer nerve had earned him his nickname, Cocky. He was now a legend. With British law enforcement now watching his every move and his face known to every officer in Liverpool, Warren relocated. In the mid-1992, he moved his operations to the Netherlands, a country with major ports and a more central location for European distribution. He settled in a quiet, unassuming villa in the sleepy village of Sassenheim, a place of manicured lawns and peaceful canals, assuming he had slipped off the radar. The serene suburban setting was a perfect cover. From this tranquil base, he orchestrated a truly global empire. His portfolio of illicit businesses allegedly included casinos in Spain, nightclubs in Turkey, and even a vineyard in Bulgaria used to suspend cocaine in liquid form within bottles of wine for onward shipment. His most remarkable asset was not a weapon or a ledger, but his own mind. Warren possessed a photographic memory, a neurological gift that made him a ghost in the system. He kept no written records. Every transaction, every phone number, every Swiss bank account detail was committed to his flawless memory. This ability gave him an almost unlimited line of credit with his South American suppliers. He was the bank, and his mind was the vault. But the net, woven by multiple international agencies, was closing. On the 24th of October, 1996, in a meticulously planned raid, codenamed Operation Crayfish, heavily armed Dutch Special Forces, working with Interpol, stormed Warren's Sassenheim villa. The sheer scale of what they found was staggering, even for seasoned officers. The house was a fortress of contraband: 400 kilograms of pure cocaine, 1,500 kilograms of cannabis resin, 60 kilograms of heroin, tens of thousands of ecstasy pills, hand grenades, automatic weapons, and cash in a multitude of currencies: guilders, pounds, dollars, amounting to hundreds of thousands. The total street value was estimated at a breathtaking 125 million pounds. Warren, found calmly drinking a cup of coffee in his kitchen, was unfazed. He reportedly greeted the armed task force with the cool, sardonic remark, "I guess breakfast was delayed." This time, there was no escape. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted of drug trafficking and sentenced to 12 years in the New Wasserveld, one of the most heavily guarded prisons in Europe. His imprisonment, however, did not diminish his aura. It burnished his fearsome reputation. On the 15th of September, 1999, Warren got into a fight in the prison yard with Simo Guklu, a Turkish national serving a life sentence for murder. After Guklu allegedly attacked him, Warren retaliated with a flurry of savage blows, kicking the man repeatedly in the head even after he was on the ground. Guklu later died from a massive traumatic brain injury. Pleading self-defense, Warren faced a Dutch judge who ultimately ruled he had used excessive violence and sentenced him to an additional 4 years for manslaughter. The message was clear. Even behind bars, cocky Warren was not a man to be crossed. The Sassenheim raid gave investigators their first real glimpse into what they termed the stealth empire. It was a transnational network that ran with the cold precision of a multinational corporation, but left virtually no paper trail. Warren's operational security was flawless. Each member had a specific, compartmentalized role: logistics, communications, quality control, but they rarely met in person and often didn't know the identities of those in other cells. Instructions were delivered via encrypted pagers and, later, pay-as-you-go phones that were swapped weekly and paid for in cash by proxies. Messages were coded and often self-deleted. The organization's loyalty was absolute, enforced by a potent combination of immense financial reward and terrifying whispered threats. When an ambitious Albanian gang reportedly tried to encroach on his route in Spain, its leader vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a single chilling note: "Don't touch Cocky's line." Even when his underlings were caught, they refused to talk. One mid-level distributor, facing a 20-year sentence, was offered a deal that would see him walk free in 5. He simply stared at the prosecutors and remained silent, choosing 2 decades in a cell over the unknown consequences of betraying the man they referred to in hushed tones only as Boss Man, the Watcher, or simply C. Investigators realized they weren't just dealing with a drug lord. They were confronting a shadow strategist who inspired a level of devotion that bordered on the fanatical. His influence was so profound that authorities alleged he continued to run his cartel from his Dutch prison cell. This led to another trial in 2005 where he was accused of orchestrating a 200-kilogram cocaine shipment from behind bars. Though he was ultimately acquitted on appeal, the case demonstrated that even in a high-security prison, the reach of his empire remained terrifyingly long. After his early release for good behavior in June 2007, Curtis Warren was a free man. He had served his time, but he was not reformed. Within weeks, he was on the radar of police on the small, wealthy island of Jersey, a self-governing dependency of the British Crown known for its low crime rate and affluent population. Warren saw it as an easy, lucrative target. Monitored by the UK's elite Serious Organised Crime Agency, SOCA, he was observed making over 1,500 calls in just a few weeks from public phone boxes across northwest England, meticulously rebuilding his network as he orchestrated his comeback. His plan was a £1 million cannabis smuggling plot, which he dismissively described in a conversation secretly bugged by police as just a little starter. The scheme was classic Warren. Buy 180 kilograms of high-grade cannabis in Amsterdam, transport it to the coast of Normandy, and then use a high-speed boat to make the final run across the channel to Jersey. But SOCA was listening to his every word. Warren was arrested in July 2007, long before any drugs reached the island. The subsequent trial in 2009 was a masterclass in electronic surveillance. The prosecution built its case on a mountain of evidence, including covert voice recordings that captured him orchestrating the conspiracy with his characteristically arrogant authority. Unmoved and defiant throughout the trial, he was found guilty and sentenced to 13 years in prison. The final hammer blow, however, fell in November 2013. In a landmark ruling that sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld, the Royal Court of Jersey issued a £198 million confiscation order against him, one of the largest in European history. Using financial legislation, the court had painstakingly calculated this as the sum total of his career earnings from drug trafficking. He was given 28 days to pay. If he failed, he faced an additional 10 years in jail. In a move that surprised no one, Warren refused to pay a single penny, defiantly claiming he was penniless. The extra decade was added to his sentence. Cocky had gambled and lost, this time in spectacular fashion. Curtis Warren was finally released from the maximum security HMP Whitemoor in November 2022 after serving nearly 14 continuous years behind bars. Now 59, balding and thicker around the middle, many assumed his reign was finally over. The criminal landscape had changed, and he was a relic of a bygone era. But the authorities weren't taking any chances. They subjected him to one of the strictest serious crime prevention orders SCPO ever imposed on an individual in the UK. The list of restrictions was draconian, a virtual cage without bars. He was banned from using encrypted messaging apps like WhatsApp or Signal, forbidden from possessing more than £1,000 cash, and was required to give the National Crime Agency 1 week's notice of any plan to use a vehicle or travel outside his home city. He had to declare every mobile phone, SIM card, and communication device he owned or used. It was a clear signal of the state's enduring fear of his capabilities. The silence, predictably, didn't last. In July 2023, Warren was arrested again, this time in South Tyneside, for multiple breaches of the SCPO. The National Crime Agency had been watching, and they alleged he had been using unregistered mobile phones, possessed cash exceeding his limit, and had failed to declare his business interests and travel. In August 2024, facing irrefutable evidence, he pleaded guilty to 6 breaches and received a 14-month suspended sentence, a final public warning shot from the establishment. Today, Curtis Warren lives at an untraceable location. There are no employment records, no official financial activity, and he has never given an interview. He remains a paradox, a criminal mastermind who amassed a fortune estimated at £300 million, yet claims to have nothing. He survived for decades in a brutal world where kingpins are invariably captured, betrayed, or killed in a hail of gunfire. The frightening question for law enforcement isn't about what he did, but what he might still be capable of. Has the game truly ended for cocky Warren, or is he simply waiting in the shadows, his brilliant, ruthless mind plotting one final, spectacular move?